Welcome to the Evercade Retreat. Gene Jake here, and today I'm ranking and reviewing all the games from the Atari Arcade Collection Volume 1. With the upcoming release of the Atari Arcade 2, I thought it would be a good time to go through and actually get around to doing this. Normally with my reviews I like to have completed every game on the collection, or as near as I can get. Now that's pretty much impossible with this collection. There's mostly score chasers, and also many of these I haven't really played that much because I either just don't like them, or I've played them a lot in the past and I just haven't felt that much need to go and play them again. I really don't expect to see any uber impressive gameplay here. Not to mention that many of these games, although I have a little bit of nostalgia for them, I did play them back in the day, some in the arcade, some on consoles, but these aren't games that really excite me. They're fine, I've played them to death and I've played numerous versions of rip-offs of them, but again, they never really excite me. They don't have that nostalgia that makes me think, oh, amazing Atari, because I'm not a huge Atari fan, but I do appreciate them for what they were and their place in history, because there is no getting away from the fact that there are some absolute classics on this collection. Of course, just because something is a classic and is historically significant doesn't mean you have to like it.
Number 13.
Pong. What else can you say? Yeah, it has its place in history, and yeah, it just doesn't have much to offer. And this reconstructed version, I think it's like it's not actually the arcade original because of how the board was built or something. But yeah, this version, I suppose it's okay, but it's still just Pong, and I really couldn't be bothered, as you can tell by the footage of this gameplay. While I do understand its inclusion, it does nothing for me.
Number 12.
Super Breakout. I've actually always enjoyed the Breakout style of gameplay. I played a lot of the various clones on things like the Spectrum, the Commodore 64 and many systems since, and yeah, I've always enjoyed the gameplay style. This version, on the Evercade and the way the controls work, because I believe it used a paddle, it just doesn't control well on a controller without a paddle. Never mind. Moving on.
Number 11.
Canyon Bomber. This is a very simplistic game. It's fine for what it is. I don't really get much enjoyment out of it. Every so often I have a little bash here and there, but generally I'd rather play something else. And it's not a reflection on the game itself. It just is what it is, a product of its time, and yeah, it doesn't really do a huge amount for me. At least there's no control issues, just as it uses one button.
Number 10.
Skydiver. Again, another very simple game with quite basic controls, and it's not something I'm drawn to, but when I do play it, I do have some fun with it. You essentially launch your skydiver out, you open your chute and you try and land on the target. Really not much else to say about it. Obviously it's of its time, it's absolutely fine for what it is. It's just there's games I have more fun with further up on the list.
Number 9.
Is the Liberator. I'd never played this before the Evercade. I don't think I'd even heard of it, to be perfectly honest. I understand it's a sort of sequel or spiritual successor to Missile Command, and I can really see that. I like how it is almost the reverse of Missile Command. You're effectively invading a planet, they're trying to defend against you, and you use your shields to stop their missiles. Again, like a reverse Missile Command, and it just adds a bit more to it. I like what it's going for, but I do find I don't enjoy it quite as much as I suppose the simplicity of Missile Command. Not that it's much more complex, but yeah, sometimes simple is good, despite I've been saying that some of these games are too simple, but anyway, yeah, it's a perfectly fine little shoot 'em up type thing.
Number 8.
Night Driver. Now, if anyone who saw my Atari Collection 1 review mentioned how I really didn't like this game, and I didn't, although it came up in Katie's challenge and I played it some more, and actually found myself to really enjoy it competing against other people in a challenge. So it's ended up higher off my list because although it is a very simple game, it's just quite fun, and I find myself almost like zoning out and just feeling very chilled when I play it. So yeah, I end up liking this a lot more than I used to.
Number 7.
Crystal Castles. Again, you control Bentley Bear as you run around collecting gems or gummies, whatever they are, avoiding the enemies and things. And it's got a very distinct look, and it's a game that I actually liked more than many of the others on here when I was younger. Maybe it's just, as a kid, it just appealed to me more. But what really holds this back is I don't really like the way it controls. It is playable, but I don't know, it just doesn't feel as good as I would like, really. See that as being an Evercade thing, just the game in general. Maybe I'd feel better if I was playing it on an arcade stick or something. The game itself, running around collecting the gems, avoiding the enemies, and some of these levels have their little quirks to them as well. It's a fun little game. I mean, I used to really enjoy a version I played on the home micros. I think it was like the Atari 800 or something. I can't really remember that clearly though, I was a kid. Anyway, yeah, it's a decent little game, so moving on.
Number 6.
Asteroids, or Asteroids Deluxe as it says on the box, although it is basically just asteroids with a pretty background. And it's the arcade original, or a variation on it, but I've played Asteroids to death. It's hard to kind of think, oh yeah, get really excited about it. I've played better versions. This feels, quite bare bones in comparison. However, there's no getting away from the simple, core, fun gameplay loop, and it's a good, fun game. It's a classic for a reason, and there's a definite charm to the graphics as well. Honestly, I don't think there's anything new I could possibly say about Asteroids that will interest or excite anyone. So yeah, it's a good game, and to be perfectly honest, all the games from this point onwards I do genuinely enjoy to some degree or another, or actually consider them really good games. They're just, well, what I'm in the mood for at the time. So they're all fairly even to some degree or another.
Number 5.
Warlords. That's a game that I imagine fewer people are familiar with over the big titles like Centipede and Asteroids. And I first played this, I think, on the Atari 800, and I enjoyed it then. Essentially, you have a castle in the corner of the screen, and there are 3 other castles. There's a dragon that launches a fireball. You've got your shield, if you like, and you deflect the bouncing fireball and essentially take out your enemy's walls while defending your own. And essentially it's being the last man standing. It's a fairly straightforward concept, but I don't know, I always had a lot of fun with it. Definitely it's one I've got to be in the mood for, and I haven't played it for a while. I wasn't doing too great here, but maybe it's a nostalgia thing, and it's very specific, and it's a game that I hadn't played as much as the others, because it's, I suppose for me, it's a game I wasn't so aware of, never seemed so common. No control issues here either, and up to 4 players. Yeah, it's a good, fun game.
Number 4.
Millipede. Now, Millipede is a sequel to Centipede. It's largely the same with a few more bells and whistles, a few changes and things, and it's almost as good. There's something about the purity or the simplicity of Centipede which makes me rank it higher, and I'll actually put it next. It's number 3 on the list. So,
Number 3.
Centipede, the prequel to Millipede. Straightforward, take your archer, shoot the centipede as it comes down the screen, blah blah blah, you know the drill. It's a straightforward score chasing shoot 'em up, and it is really good fun. I really enjoy this style of game. And yes, Centipede and Millipede, I like them both a lot, and I generally prefer Centipede as a whole. There's certain changes to Millipede that I'm not quite so keen on. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but yeah, I generally have more fun with Centipede as a whole. But again, it's close. They're both very good fun shoot 'em ups. Really nothing else I can say about these games. So moving on to
Number 2.
Missile Command. And again, it's another classic. It's very much of its era. Very simple, straightforward gameplay. It controls well. It's addictive. It's really good fun. And I don't know, can I say anything new or exciting about Missile Command? I've always liked the game. It's a classic for a reason. And possibly, this might have been the first time I ever played the arcade original on the Evercade. Possibly, I may have played it in arcade, but I don't really recall. But I have played numerous versions over the years, and clones and rip-offs. So yeah, Missile Command, always liked it. Classic game. It's awesome.
And number 1.
Now, my most played game on this collection is Lunar Lander. Once again, it's a very simple game with very distinct, simple graphics, and it's just such a chill, almost stoner game really. But all you do is you guide your moon lander or your lunar lander down to the surface and land safely. Depending where you land, you get more or less points. Of course, you have limited fuel, you're dealing with gravity and momentum, and it's just so simple and relaxed, and I just chill to it. I'm sure some will agree with my pick, no doubt many others would disagree, but really the top 5 or 6 games could easily be interswapped pretty closely.
Final opinions.
So yeah, the cart as a whole, it's kind of a mixed bag. You've got some very simplistic games, some are absolutely great, some are okay, again, for preference and all that, but a few games which just control absolutely terribly, and really they're kind of useless on this collection. No doubt some purists will say that other games would work better with other forms of control which aren't available on the Evercade. I'm fine with them, but again, your mileage may vary. Ultimately, whether this cart appeals to you really comes down to what sort of appreciation you have for this era of gaming. There are no long games here, however, many of these games you can just play endlessly, so is that better or worse? There's a lot of replay value as long as you enjoy a score chaser. So for myself, as I mentioned, this isn't a strong nostalgia for me. This isn't a cart that I'm really drawn to that often. I tend to lean more towards your 16-bit era, or 8-bit as well, but technically I suppose these are 8-bit really, but anyway, that's kind of the whole marketing bollocks thing anyway. Staying on the topic at hand, and this cart, well, many consider it one of the weakest of the arcade carts, and I would be one of those people. Not that there's anything wrong with it, it's just, like I say, it's that lack of excitement and I suppose what I'm into myself. But there is no getting away from the fact that when I play these games I do have fun with them. So overall I'd have to rank it 6.5 out of 10. Anyway, that's it for this review. And like I said, I haven't really said anything particularly new, insightful, or anything on about this collection, because I don't feel there is much to be said apart from just giving my personal feedback. Anyway, I will, as usual, go out with a silly song based on one of the games, and I'll see you in the next video.
Down the lunar way. Engines roar, the ground draws near. One wrong move, it all disappears. Thrusters and stars, my guide through the dark. Dreaming of a perfect mark. Balance the odds, defy the fall. Lunar lander, I hear your call. Hey! Shadows of endless night. Steady the descent, the surface waits. A moment's choice decides my fate. Engines roar, the ground draws near. One wrong move, it all disappears. Thrusters and stars, my guide through the dark. Dreaming of a perfect mark. Balance the odds, defy the fall. Lunar lander, I hear your call. Over craters deep I glide, a pioneer with stars as my guide. Touchdown's more than just a game, it's a spark that fuels the flame. Engines roar, the ground draws near. One wrong move, it all disappears. Thrusters and stars, my guide through the dark. Dreaming of a perfect mark. Balance the odds, defy the fall. Lunar lander, I hear your call. Thrusters and stars, my endless quest. Lunar lander, you've